Welcome to my lovely IHP community and the 5D collective. Before we close on out for now, let's talk about the lovely elite emotional invincibility squad. That's what I'm going to be using as I continue to run our rest of the year with the securely attached, non-traumatized people. So when you meet the ones who don't know that love and flirting are easy, for those of us who have healthy relationships with educational, entertaining podcasts such as myself, you learn a lot of things. So, one, flirting is something that I've heard I don't know how to do, but that's because I actually am a straight shooter. So, usually I'm not wasting my time giving mixed messages. And I don't actually explain all of my dynamics, by the way, like my past. So you all will have heard of my funny stories from a teenage boyfriend, and so I'll do that. When I was a kid, teenager, yeah, I flirted a lot. And I remember one guy I was flirting with. Here's what you will know: a securely attached, non-traumatized person, again, is a person who will be, just so you know, a securely attached, self-led mystic, spiritual and mindful person who knows that inconsistencies are fear, not love. And that's not a life partner, which is why I don't spiral down in uncertainty or in doubt. I can get anxiety, but panic attacks really are a lot more upsetting than emotionally unavailable men or emotionally inconsistent. One day I'm a good person and I'm amazing, the next day I'm an awful, horrible human being. Now, that's the part of where be yourself in connection in life and love. So again, as a 5D mystic functional adult, I gave you points of views and stories, and I do know that a non-traumatized person with a secure attachment such as myself can self-regulate without you, which is why I am that. And then, thank you, Daniel Siegel. Mindfulness helps to integrate the mind and the body and relationships. So tune into our other episodes, as I am both my own lion and my fire, and my own tiger and my darkness and awareness, and I can sit in my lunar and feminine energy. In fact, I'm my own vulnerable 0 to 16-year-old, and I rise from the ashes all the time because, one, I'm my golden egg, I'm an open heart, and that's because I'm self-led, and two, life is my tarantula. So when people bring me their tarantula, I know that I will be meeting either a genuine elite tier of emotional invincibility in person or not. And when they're pseudo intellectuals, they speak idiocy from their mouths. And that's because of a lot of things. I chose to re-record this episode because I actually had an aha moment while I was doing this episode, and I decided to scratch it because I needed time to settle in with what is completely. See, I'm in the Enlightenment Soul age group, so I know dark matter, dark energy don't implode. God always wins, and that's exactly why the only people who don't know how to be emotionally invincible are the ones who spiral in negative thinking of their own. And doomsday is what they do, and then they actually make children and they talk a bunch of very dangerous for our globe. So when you make a child and then you don't care that air, water, and food stay around, I'm going to know I hold you responsible like Patrick Tiahan does because you didn't do your emotional responsibility. You don't actually know how to be a person. In fact, your performance is an act that is full of pretending to be intelligent and knowledgeable. You lack genuine understanding and expertise. Now, you may have the expertise, but you like to use buzzwords and jargon in the in and out group and the yesterday's news. You also like to use complex language to appear intellectual while also, though, engaging in superficial and or insincere intellectual discourse as a pseudo intellectual, or you just really want to create drama because you're spiteful, because that's where, as our lovely smart therapists point out, a person who in fact does not know secure attachment, we don't only begin with a solid foundation. Some of us stay self-led because mixed messages. Thanks, Mom. I'm flirting with a boy. He's really cute. And I buy these amazing shoes. They're tall. Now, this boy is superficial. He's a starfish with no horse. So Traumatic memory is not a memory that's remembered, but a memory that's relived. Ruth Lanus, MD, that's implicit. Explicit instead comes up as images. So when your sensations, your images, your behaviors, affects, and meanings are yours, that's why I'm my own lion. I'm a self-master. That's why I transform. You don't matter. I will notice my gut. If you tune into our extended, I describe to you a bunch of things. That's what a mindfully aware person will be is, wow, I have interoception. But wait, I'm a guitar string, so are you. So I'm picking up on something, but I'm going to wait. I'm bothered by your voice. No, I'm bothered by this gut. And then you wait. And once I was done with this interview, very many golden nuggets, yes, but an idiot. An idiot. And that was the aha moment I had when I re-recorded this. And it's pretends to be knowledgeable, uses jargon and complex language, yes, engages in superficial discourse and in and out group, by the way, they always use that. So they're part of one group and then they actually use all those words that are against the other group, which plays to crowd. No, they just are teenagers who have decided to be a group together, because that's what happens when people stand in their self-righteous idiocy thinking that they're brilliant when they're not. And being destructive. No, I do know God. God always wins. That's all I'm going to say. I'm a spirit. I bring you science. I'm a pseudoscience lady. I don't actually do. I be and do all in one. Jesus, thank you so much for dying for my sins. He taught me forgiveness. I don't say I forgave. And that's because my heart stays open and I'm a genuine intellectual, which is, I like to learn things. I'm a seeker. I imprint truth upon me all the time. I don't assume that the entire world will be backstabbers, because actually that's a bullshit statement. And I do know that the only ones who think it, well, I don't watch my back. I learned their Cusco hand. And then when they have mood swings, they decide to bring it into a room. And there you go. So that's very easy. A healthy relationship is where you don't have mood swingers, but that's because you get therapists for the one-to-one. And that doesn't matter if you're a polyamory or monoamory couple and or a mixed one. The therapist, like Terrio, helps a man, woman, they become a real man, woman, they. And it's always important because those first 3 years, like Ruth Lanus, it's traumatic, so it's not something that you remember. It will come forth in your mouth, in your tone, and I can actually trigger it. And you won't be aware of it if you're not taking awareness, accountability, and actual regulation in your prefrontal seriously. And so the reason that dude who's an avoidant, who said that we, the securely attached, are not emotionally invincible, is he said they have anxiety too. And I say, yeah, but we don't spiral in our brain because we don't think negative thoughts. And we don't have inner and outer critic, and we don't have shame and defectiveness, and we don't have longing to be loved unconditionally with flaws and imperfections. We don't long that because we got the consistent contingent communication that my body needed to know that I'm safe in this world. And so I'm safe in this world. And so I'm safe in this world. That's why you don't have the golden egg. I have the golden egg to invincibility with emotions. It's called, you got an integrated brain person in front of you. And anytime I hear somebody who's not, they do buffoonery. And they are very much followed by others who lack critical thinking and will be arrogant and or dismissive as they belittle those of us who do know what we're talking about, because spiritual is not woo-woo, but it can be, yes, pseudoscience. And sciences like neuroscientists who are neurobiologists, who are also mental health professionals, who are continuing to conduct their research and share with you that pathologies are very clear, they're the right ones who know how to tell you why you won't be with them in fetal position. And that's why someone who uses complex vocabulary in everyday conversations will want to appear to be intelligent without truly know they can't even understand the subject and do thorough, but then they come on screen and inform us of their insecurities and let us know how they feel that we are not elite and emotionally invincible, because we will be destabilized in their opinion because we have anxiety. What we don't have is a destabilized self-image, which they also don't know, because again, they didn't begin with a stable self-image. I did. I don't have doubt of Maria. I'm flirting. I'm a teenager. I'm short. This guy continuously made fun of the fact that I'm short, so he would say, we cannot aesthetically be together. I didn't care. I still liked flirting. So I come in. It's a very beautiful day. I got my heels on, my new heels. I'm all excited. I'm excited and happy for my heels. And as soon as I walk in, someone who asserts dogmatic beliefs about complex scientific topics without engaging in critical analysis. So last night I watched this dude. You tune into the extended if you want, and he's definitely this pseudo-intellectual, although I got definitely golden nuggets. But his dogmatic man, woman, and bullshit stuff that he brought to the forefront is where it's not in the in-depth critical analysis, because he doesn't have a peer review with him. And in fact, you'll always notice when they don't have peers that come together with them, because they are doing a solo chit chat of their research, of what they've conducted. So when I look at a conversation about men and women and days, I will look for the peers that are talking together, because I want the panels as they discuss academically. So with a mediator, that's when I'm going to be paying attention. In this case, and that's why for podcasts, it's really entertainment, educational, but it's not in a way of me knowing I'm getting critical analysis. No, I'm getting one person's perspective, but that person can sound so amazing that we got a bunch of people who use these individuals, men, women, and days, who are pseudo-intellectuals, and they're bringing in their agenda and say, oh no, the environment is fine. Oh no, the women. So that's the part of where they bring forth an entire conversation. In fact, they even justify what they're bringing forth, because they say we're not enticing any type of violence. And that's where I understand what they're saying. But at the same time, it would be ideal for them to have the interactions with their peers, but they don't allow themselves to go and have peer-reviewed conversations. They like to be interviewed solo, so that they can share with you their entire conversation in the absence of having to go into the in-depth analysis. When instead you get a peer reviewed, or I'm using the word wrong, when you get a bunch of people that are academics together. So I saw one for evil, good and evil, philosophers, religion, religious figures, social sciences people. Okay, so now we have a panel of experts. We're not going to sit and say one is right and one is wrong. The genuine intellect, the genuine intellectual, we are driven by curiosity, we engage in critical thinking, and we seek to understand complex ideas. We also don't shut things up in dogmatic beliefs. So the whole men, women, this one was about men cheating, and it's like, yeah, okay, that's not the case. For the polyamory community, we have consensual non-monogamy, because we understand that some men and some women and some days are okay with compersion, because we have healthy self-worth. The ones who think this ruins tradition, which in fact, then they bring in only parts of data, you also know that they have a bias, which is why it's not something to be taken seriously, specifically though when they put their own children in danger, because they actually support a very specific, this is what I paused the video and again redid it, I'm going to keep it vague, but this was some very awful gesture, and they're basically, anyone, Russian roulette. So when you have people who live action movies in their head, and they are living, I don't know, the cowboys, that is an ignorant human being. And that is what I'm going to leave it at, because I don't need to do anything. Thanks God. God's great. And nobody that's an ignorant human being who's in a destructive mode in their moment of speaking is going to intellectually bring anything else to the community. They're holding the fort, like when the Roman Empire was thinking they could still make it somewhere, and they didn't. And so the minute that you tell me you love your children, but you do something that is completely inconsistent with that, I just know, Patrick Chan, thank you for being out there. Because I got a person in a room with mama, papa wounds, and who knows what else that they're playing out on a screen right now. And now I'm in their action movie, like when I was in a situation once where we were just randomly talking about marketing, and all of a sudden I got this person telling me how I'm going to be in the middle of nowhere with people shooting at me, and because I don't have guns, I'm going to be killed. And I'm like, how did we get here? I don't understand. And so when you have a pathological mind in front of you, because there's a structurally dissociated cognitive dissonance, insecure human being who is in a mode, the brainstem, that's why Determined, Robert Sapolsky's book, I haven't read it yet, but that's what he's trying to present. The first 3 years of your life matter. So again, a traumatic memory, and that which is not been played out by your body will play itself out, which is why if you care, you go and take yourself to get yourself reparented, because that's the part of where Ron Siegel, I read this to you in our late HP shows, when we're talking about acceptance, it is very important to talk about the difference between accepting experience as it's arising in our own body and endorsing a certain kind of behavior. So he says it is important to talk about the difference between accepting the experience that arises and then endorsing the behavior. And so a pseudo-intellectual, a person who is being reactive, whatever it is that's going on, and they have a way that they are doing this engagement of conversing, the belittling, the group. So for me, it's not a big deal. While I'm watching this 3-hour thing, again, you can tune into the extended, I noticed immediately my gut. And I was like, but I'm enjoying the tone, I'm enjoying the interaction, I'm curious about what they have to say, although it's bullshit, the whole cheating thing, because again, I'm polyamory, so I don't find that there's a need for us to keep talking about this cheating. I was also curious because of the evolutionary biology, but I've met smarter evolutionary biologists, and this one is not one of them, but the golden nuggets are pretty fascinating, to say the least. So they were able to bring a couple and more interesting data points. In the meantime, I'm just wondering what my gut is doing, and then I leave alone. And my aha moment from before was that they are doing a gesture that is Russian roulette, and you're like a little fucking idiotic teenager right now who I wish I were a big Kali in this moment, but I got Shiva and Krishna Lila, and really I'm just Maria, and I know God's got this. So I don't need to actually get into vulnerable, angry deer because I'm an actual phoenix, which is why I'm an emotionally elite invincible, because I just managed to notice there's no need for my nervous system to calibrate to theirs. They're in their brainstem. They're an insecure person, and they actually think they're really badass, and the teenage version is a fight response. And really, I got a person who just on screen did the most uncomfortable thing ever, and you said you loved your children, which you don't, because otherwise you would have heard what you just spoke out from your mouth by thinking of history, not wanting it to repeat itself. Instead, you think that that's awesome. And I think you're a very unfortunate human being that is holding the fort like other human beings are, for the ones who don't want to become grown-up Peter Pan versions of themselves and not be afraid to be a grown-up anymore, because they will have reparented their inner child by noticing I come from a home that I didn't have good parenting in, because I didn't get taught how it's okay to be my true self and to be open-hearted and to be a true lion, like the Lion King, the father of Simba, and that the tigers also work together, and that the circle of life, there's no evil Knievel, someone's going to come kick you in the ass. No tragedy Bambi story, please. That's only for the ones who long to find that which is safety, because again, that's what the poor inner child is still waiting for. But when someone says, I'm an avoidant, I'm going to say avoidant because we're all fucked up, you just decided to disregard the tarantula, and you think you're a rising phoenix, but you're not, because you still spiral in your brain, and I don't. I never have, because I don't have any actual tarantula. I got God, and I got my actual good child-centric, vulnerable heart here, and wow, I take history very seriously. So when I see you play out something that looks like a cowboy in the Western movies, and you're actually playing it out and telling me again you got children, family, and you think men cheating, women cheating, and you don't even consider polyamory, polygamy, I'm bringing it all in just to say, wow, definitely pseudo-intellectual. So that's a side note. Again, the boy, I walk in with my nice heels, and he looks at me from a corner. This is called an explicit memory, and he says, don't you think with those heels we can be together? And I was already downloading with my higher self at the time, and I already had communion with God, Jesus, and Holy Spirit. And so I didn't realize it because I didn't look into all the mystic stuff. So from faith, I get to expand to mysticism. You'll hear about my lovely truth and my subjective experience in the chapter, God is Discerning Equanimous Love, of the book I'm a co-author of with another 8 amazing spiritual authors. The book is called The Ways to God. It's going to be out soon, June 28th. Yay! So, as he says this to me, in my head I said, this is not love, because the comment was snarky and mean, quote unquote. But already as a kid, I wasn't unfamiliar to being rejected or disowned. My twin disowned me at 8, meaning I know how to repair ruptures, and I know how to say it's going to be okay because my mother taught me it's okay. At 4, I got rejected, where I went home crying because, you know, the boys wanted to go around the block and I didn't, and I wanted to read to them. So anyways, the point that I'm sharing is that healthy relationships and love and flirting, from a teenage version to a grown-up version, for me it's easy to say if I like you or not. Like, it's also easy to accept rejection, which is why I don't lose anyone. When my teenage boyfriend and we had the breakup, people kept saying, you let him get away. And I said, what? You let him get away? Because I'm not jealous. This is the part. And so when people need you to be jealous and possessive, that's an insecure modality. Some people, it's cultural. I will accept it. I'm not going to make everybody be a compersion human being. I'm also not going to make anyone have to be polyamory. But I'm going to let you know, I know integrity and vows way better than any monogamy or monoamory, man or woman might it be, that doesn't know how to actually bring their true self into a picture. Because the minute that you are bringing to me your child parts, you don't know who you are. And as a 45-year-old woman, there's a bunch of people that are women and men who just do the same shit that this dude did on an interview and think that men are cheaters and women are cheaters, and then they reduce our human species to a monkey, because they actually think that all of us play with our 14-month-old in and out group. There's a study that I got to learn about, a number of good ones, and so we'll use that one because I rule Maria. Again, I'm a self-master of Maria. I don't control Maria. I'm her. And then I have that lovely relationship with God Source and as a channeler and downloader and stuff like that. But I don't have to make it, ooh. But I am emotionally invincible because I have a nervous system that I use and as a mindfulness practitioner, I can tell you it's really fun. And that's why resiliency, you don't say, I want this. You say, wow, I want more. Okay, and you don't worry about spiraling down in your brain because you know that's actually maladaptive patterns of thinking, which aren't going to bring you out of anything. And you're not a phoenix rising when you look like a yesterday's news cowboy with Russian roulette in your hand and you think you've done something that's of strong, when instead you endanger your children. You completely endanger your own children. Wow. That is very, very disappointing right now. I'm just settling in with this because, again, I was watching and assimilating the information, but I was also, anyways, that's a side note for my regular listeners who know me pretty much well. Okay, so as I was trying to get to the end of our conversation, you will know how to be a person who is in an actual relationship when you can be vulnerable, when you're not afraid of being vulnerable, and when, as Terry Real points out, it's always going to be a risk because that's exactly what we do. We don't put our heart on our sleeves. As Stephen Porges says, your heart's on your face. But what you want to do know is that the 14-month-old of you and I will know with our amygdala we will like, at 14 months old, you will like the same, you will like to play with a teddy bear that likes the same cereal you do. And you will not play as much, if at all, with the teddy bear that likes the different cereal than you do. And if you play with the teddy bear, they have found that children can tend to be hostile with that teddy bear. Okay, so this is that in and out group, likes and dislikes. So when you hear somebody, though, exaggerating it, versus allowing you to know that I can know who I like and don't like, and I'll use that human being. I didn't have anything alerted. I just had that I wasn't going to become engaged with them. And when they did try to engage, the alert that I had was they're in my space and they are not someone I don't have interests with them. I don't have the desire to talk about the things they're talking about, and that's it. It was neutral. It was consistently neutral until then they began to be insistent on wanting to socialize, which then, okay, now I'm noticing you're insisting on something, and it's because of that push and pull energy. Mine doesn't push or pull, but I begin to perceive you entering into my space because I'm a differentiated self. So now what I know you're doing is you're trying to mesh, quote unquote, or anyways, and I'm not going to do the whole, there's no trauma dumping. It's you don't have healthy boundaries. You lack boundaries. So when you have healthy boundaries, if I got an avoidant, they shut me out and they're desperate. I will perceive maybe yes, maybe no, because as a mystic, okay, that's the part we share field with people. Then up in the grandiosity, because in shame they're losers. In the grandiosity, they're better off without you, and they'll think that they're amazing. For the unhealthy, self-worth, unanxious side, we got shame, this manipulative, desperate dude. So they become clingy. And then if they're grandiose, they become the squirrel from Cusco land. And so that's the nice girls, nice boys. This is the part of where you got a flip a switch. And these are basic unhealthy self-worth boundaries. You got a person with states of self, that's a whole different story, and that's unfortunate business, because I've noticed when people have a switch, because I got it taught. And I have noticed that these individuals that don't go to heal themselves, the way Beth and Ruth Lanius both have shared with me, and more than just some courses, so you're a dangerous person walking a street. And you're following the same assholes who play Russian roulette and talk about men and women in the very ancient ways, and they will in fact twist their words to make it look like I'm a person of lacking of integrity because I'm a whore. Remember, I'm a polyamory person. I'm a masochist, or what's the other word? I'm unfaithful. So this is where it's not about the words. Remember, I try to give you the beneath the surface. I'm untouchable, because when I hear this, it makes me think the flirting dude. The minute he did that, I was like, that's not how love works. And that's not nice. But I'm having fun, so I'm going to keep flirting. That's what I did. Teenage boyfriend didn't teach me much except for what cowards do. So when I meet cowards, I don't have anything to say, because all I can tell you is that shame and defectiveness are a very lonely, in fact, thinking that a securely attached, self-led person would go into spiraling and self-doubt. You don't know secure, attached, self-led person, because you don't know what it means to have a heart that isn't broken and that longs to be held, because that's where my 1-year-old got held, and I have a twin. My 2-year-old got held, and I have a twin. Held, not held. My 3-year-old, that's my most favorite childhood memory. And I still remember, as I'm in my hypnotherapy session, I lose words, and I'm just touching, and I'm touching my twin's face, actually. That's the part. But long story short, when you know your story as a emotionally invincible elite, come on over, because you're ready for self-help, personal development, because you want to do restored embodiment. And when you hear some idiots, you just think, wow, okay, I know who they're holding the fort for, and I'm not worried, because I know God wins and there's no Lucifer in them. Because yeah, adoptive child part, it's a losing strategy for insecure people. It's half safe for insecure people. It's messy disaster for insecure people. For securely attached people, it's just another day. And oh, the full moon, we just recently had it. So remember, we all get things come up. And when you have spiritual bypassers, they don't know how to handle their hissy fit. That's the part. You don't know how to handle your 0-1-year-old yet. You don't have all your child parts in check, meaning in your forefront, and you're actually using your nervous system not in the love frequency, because you don't know how to yet use your ventral energy consistently, which means you don't know how to bring your prefrontal cortex on and walk like an Egyptian. So you don't know love, because if you did, you'd know secure attachment, like Stephen Porges explains it. And then you'd know how to soothe yourself, the panic attacks. They gave me good practice. And then you'd know how to not make it into a big deal, because you're not a drama king or queen or addicted to it. Then you'd know how to ask yourself about addictions with, okay, what am I actually, what's the pain? Am I feeling under pressure for something? What is this gnawing at me, and I'm using this in an ill way? I don't want to use it this way, because, so here's where for cigarettes, I'll use me. As a smoker, I still smoke cigars, and I do notice when I'm smoking more frequently the difference, but it's one cigar, not, the cigarettes every day. So I allow myself to have that wiggle room dance and doing exercises. We all know when we get sloppy. When I was smoking, and I had the beginning of the panic attacks, that was one of the ways that I would release stress, because it felt. But that is where it's the breathing, okay? And when people said you're addicted, I said, no, I'm not. And they, to this day, want to say I am. Addiction is when you can't stop. Instead, I could if I wanted to. I enjoyed it, okay? So if you know yourself, you'll know if you're enjoying something. Like, you'll know if you're using it to anti-stress something. And that is actually not healthy. And also moderation. So a lot of people have golden nuggets, like this human being who, again, the conversation, plenty of golden nuggets. That is the part of where there's nothing that I would say is going to lead anyone too much astray, but there's other aspects that are discuss that make me know what group you're in, who you're rooting for, what you think of another group, and you're a 14-month-old who doesn't know how to be a grown-up. So you are ruled by the lack of mental, emotion, physical intelligence. You don't have it because you're influenced by your implicit, explicit memory, and you're deluded by your own imagination, so much so that you actually do a very specific thing that to a person who has a master's degree in international relations and diplomacy, and I have a political science bachelor's, and I'm thinking of history. Wow. And you just told me you love your what? Your kids? You do. Wow. Sure you do. I think you love the idea of what you have become. I think you love the name that you have, because that's exactly what you love, due to the fact that I'm not going to tell you what it was because this was too much. But anyone who is healthy relationship is going to notice what I did, and it's got to set in. So when you're dealing with people, it's very easy. And when you look at the big picture, don't worry. I know Sadhguru recently, he shared this thing. He's like, all the ecosystem works well together, but not the human. Their destructive mode is really on a fire. And, let's try to help make it happen, make people get out of it. They think they're brilliant. And I just want to say one thing, Sadhguru, don't you worry about a thing. You know God, you know Akash, you know intelligence, you know source. So we really don't have to do much except for continuing to group together the 5D collective, of course, because we're going to have a good time. Because we're genuinely intellectual and interested and not pseudo-intellectuals. And so we do know how to handle the pseudo-intellectuals. I get to practice that every day more. And when it's in a relationship, like I said, a real relationship means that you have not a person who's a Pinocchio who's going to hit rock bottom, but you got a person who's an actual Pinocchio, a Peter Pan that isn't afraid of grown-ups, that they're their own grown-up, functional child adults. Okay, so flirting and loving, not hard. And what we get to give to the teenagers of today and the older generation who wants to learn is polyamory and monoamory. The securely attached ones, we get along. None of us insult each other, because really we find it humorous when someone actually thinks in the ways of our ancestors, medieval times, and baboons. So when I hear a person saying that all men cheat or will tend to cheat, I say there's no problem here, because I'm okay with sharing. Also, when they say men and women cheat, I say no, I actually don't, again, cheat, because I'm a person who likes to be very upfront about things. So I know how to take what is called cojones and or vagina and actually present myself, which is where way back when I did this thing called, we're in an open relationship, this is not negotiable, I'm informing you, this is what it is. And then this went on, and the sense of the relationship went well and dandy, and all of a sudden, after a whole year or something, they made it seem like they hadn't heard what I said. So as they're looking at me, I said, I told you specifically, this is non-negotiable, this is happening. You had the opportunity to break up with me, you didn't. I'm understanding right now what this face looks like, so sorry. Okay, we can recalibrate, but I'm not feeling like I did anything wrong, because I told you, you didn't hear me. Long story short, eventually I get told, and this is a lovely human being, we're friends, FYI, all of my lovers, there's only one human being, but that's actually in the norm because of who the human being is. Not the family, just the one human being, because, when you have small egos, that's the part. Small egos, they tend to not grow up, and so they tend to be very much toxic. Those are both patriarch, matriarch, which is where we got the people who like to wield their words fancy. So teenagers get to see securely attached polyamory, monoamory, say, hey, okay, we're going to walk a walk and talk a talk with you, and we're going to let you know, yeah, it's an awkward time because we got a bunch of people who are really not tending to anything. So as Patrick Tiahan pointed out in his reframe, and I'm going to reframe it because that way you can understand what my reframe is. He shares, your parents did the best that they could. And his reframe is at avoiding the responsibility and emotional labor of their job. And I said, I'm going to reframe that for the elite, emotionally invincible people, our securely attached, non-traumatized community who get called boring by those who don't have us. They don't have secure attachment. So again, I'm here with self-help, personal development, and anybody who doesn't want to be their ventral energy will not be back. And that's why they won't have healthy relationships, but they will love having their drama, king and queen. And that's why, dude, I know that you're trying to be nice to them, but you got people who have children and they think they're making the world a better place for you and for me and the entire human race, and they think killing children is okay. They even think killing each other is okay. They think we're utopistic. They think that we're optimistic. They think that we don't know anything and that we're naive, that we're idiots. They think that we're gullible. Did I mention I come with God? Yeah. So he wins, not Lucifer. And Lucifer has nothing to do with promiscuity, because addiction has everything to do with when you will not have had the first 3 years of your life, beginning with what is called heaven. I'm in heaven, na na na, which is why I didn't lose heaven in the body, and I didn't lose anything. Determined, Robert Spolsky, give me an excuse for why I'm lucky. That way people can be okay with it. Determined, nobody has free will. I just got lucky because Maria stayed self-led. I'm a perfectionist who wants to be a good girl. Big girls, they do a crap. And whenever I'm in these modes, I think, wow, I remember those teenagers. I'm back to Maria. I'm back from outer space. So teenagers didn't like me, but my guardian angel protected me. And I tell her, thank you, but you didn't have to, because I would have ratted every single one of them who would have touched me with one little finger, just one. Just come, hit me. No, you don't know how to speak. You don't know how to use your mouth. Wow, you really must be stupid. As a teenager, yeah, I was annoying. Now I know how to refrain from doing any of that, because I also don't want to waste my time. Yes, God, I know I won't judge human suffering. A fucking waste of my time. I just don't want to waste my time with stupidity. So I allow myself to notice. And the 1.5 hour or almost 2 hour episode, please, if you do want to hear how I described to you what my gut perceived and how I worked through that, you can go and hear that one, because I was like, this is a good exercise. We would have, remember our exercises, we're going to have that when the tears come out again. So that would be where you can access your body, obviously, and your mind, so you know how to work with it. It's really fun. It's called Mental Emotion Physical Mastery. I'm an Akashic record reader. I'm a Reiki master. I am also a tarot oracle card reader. I'm a channeler. I'm a downloader. I'm an intuitive, and all people can be it, yes, but some use their amygdala and they spiral down in hell in their bodies, and they tell us all about it with their dark sides and neuroplasticity. Then they play Russian roulette on screen. They continue to act like peacocks, and you can tell a small ego, which is why the small ego is not my friend, because again, that was my one lesson, but it was a fun one. But it was, this is for you, because I played the know-it-all on healthy relationships. That's not right. That's not right. That's not right. That's not love. That's not, you're kind of sounding vicious right now. No, like really. I said yes to Jesus and God, but why are you not taking my side? You kind of sound vicious. And here's where you cheated all the time. And now, because of one time, no, but for men, it's different, Maria. What? No, for men, it's different. We only do it with our dick. You do it with your heart. I see. So you're wanting me to take your side and justify again. You can't have chosen to be polyamory. You chose not. And you chose to ruin something because, why are you not taking my side? I'm not taking your side because you're wrong, and you actually are a buffoon, and you're an idiot for throwing away a relationship, and you're actually not even taking ownership of what you did. And you're continuing to tell me because it's your dick, and I don't give a shit that's your dick. You don't know. You're not her, so you don't know if she did it with her vagina. I mean, really, do you know? So here's where the cheating thing makes me laugh. How old are you people that are still at the age you are at? Not you, but I'm just saying, I'm just like, how old? I didn't cheat. Nobody actually said anything. But now that I think about it, I'm starting to think maybe you did cheat. Because you said it way too many times. And I had mentioned to you polyamory, and you said, what, you fall with your head on the floor? No, I didn't mean to offend you. I wasn't trying to make you polyamory. I was just mentioning an opportunity for you to, it seemed like you wanted alternative to your relationship, and it seems you think you have an ignorant person. So did you actually choose them on purpose, or did you not know what you were getting yourself into? I'm just wondering, because usually your smart, healthy relationships, are you consciously choosing the person that you're with? Okay, so just making a point, because again, a teenage boyfriend, I said, look, I believe in God because I feel it in my bones, and you and I are going to get married, and one day I'm going to make you use the church, even though I know you don't believe in it. And today, no, people, no. Because the church doesn't uphold vows or integrity. They uphold monoamory, and they even let people who go and confess that they don't love their own wives to get married, instead of saying, okay, look, you have alternative options right now. Let's not talk about cheating anymore, and let's have a conversation called, why are you getting married again? You know you don't have to, right? We're in a different era. There's already too many children and the world is in danger. So really, let's not make any more, because that's my personal subjective opinion. But I am pro-choice. And those who are pro-life, again, when they treat their little children in certain ways, which I hear all about on YouTube, just saying, I get it. Again, you sound like you know everything. I don't know everything. No, I just know that I stand for it's my body and you have your body and I go vote. And people who don't know how to handle their emotional stuff don't know how to be anywhere. So please, the ones who get triggered, this is that place that the comedian said they can't make jokes that have anybody. I'm a political science major. I never thought that I would see any of the countries that I'm seeing act like teenagers. They're buffoons. They actively don't know how to have conversations. And you doing pseudo-intellectual blah, blah, blah makes me not want to talk to you anyways because you don't know how to talk. Because using fancy jargon and then creating in and out group just makes me know you're playing to a crowd. I'm a marketer. You're playing to a fucking crowd and you're doing so with a demeaning tone because the minute you begin to use those words, you've already decided that you want to set up a group. That means you're excluding all people. And so again, you can harness yourself if you're interested. I'm a genuinely intellectually intelligent, interested human being in all people because I don't have to interact with you and I don't need to change your mind because I don't want to. I like to get to know you, you get to know me. So a healthy relationship, that's all types, okay? So that's why, you know what, one of the most amazing conversations is when a pro-choice and a pro-life can have one. When a person who's of one political spectrum and another political spectrum can have one, when people are from religious backgrounds and spirituality and don't use jargon in a way to be divisive, don't use their spiteful gut because they're not trying to prove points. They're actually interested genuinely in that which is cultivating not only the relationship, so you're interested in hearing, which is what made this interview so fascinating that, again, I watched. And this one's moving into the 40 minutes. So, again, you might not want to tune into the other one. Depends on how much time you have. But long story short, the additional reframe before we run out of time. In addition to parents avoiding the responsibility and emotional labor of their job, there are numerous people who are not securely attached or healing themselves with a good therapist, that are avoiding their job and emotional labor as people in a world with children and securely attached non-traumatized people. So when you meet an intelligent brain, they're just not going to want to talk because I begin to understand that you're not looking to talk. You're looking to tell me why your side's right. That's called self-preservation. That's half a brain. That's really ego. That's a small ego. And let me just let you get it off your chest. And therefore, you're not interested in the exchange. You're just interested in making your point. And that's coming from a visceral, which is not an open heart, which is a reactivity, which means that you are half online. And that's the trauma-charged part of your brain, not your left brain. No, because when certainty of anger begins to play a role, you get into stereotypes. You get into a modality, but entirely your body is telling this to me because you're not open and you're not having fun with me. And I'm not having fun with you. What I'm in is basically a lecture with a person who's very, very convinced, like a peacock, that they're doing a great job at rising out from the ashes, and I don't see any fire, and I don't see any, dramatic need. And then I also don't see that you notice you've lost sight of what you were trying to. No, you were never trying to speak about it in the first place, because the entire time your agenda is consistently just to bring in your perspective. Because you're right and I'm wrong. And that's why Terrio calls it a losing strategy. Because you're not interested in what I am, who I am, or what I bring to the table. You just want to dominate because you have a low self-esteem, insecure ego. And in that moment, that is what you're doing. You're dominating the floor. So the minute you give the 3-year-old the floor, they're going to be happy. They're not really caring to interact. They're wanting to have that moment. And if they're the ones who are aware of themselves, accountable and regulating, they won't want to replicate any of those types of moments, because anytime they look back at it with their left brain and they're in their safety and they're calm and they're collected, they think, shit, okay, that was really uncalled for, unnecessary, and wow. That's how you would react. So I don't have those, but I have, okay, sorry, twin, I yell at you every now and then. And that's because I snap at her every now and then, and my mom. And really, I work on that still. I'm just saying, I don't justify it. I still work on it. And that's because my 3-year-old. So you don't delete trauma time. Again, you take ownership, accountability, and regulate. And that's why emotional mental responsibility is what every person here at IHP cares about. And that's what a healthy relationship is. So you will have people that stop projecting and living out their trauma, not only into a relationship, but into the world and into topics. And I'm very happy to let you all know that we are in a time that that is happening. So while I know 3D, 4D are sticking around because I had already gotten the download way back when as a mystic, I know that spiritual and science come together, and that the intelligent ones always win because intelligence wins, because love wins, because God wins, because there's no Lucifer, and the fearful ones don't have energy when they wake up in the morning because they spiral down, because that's exactly why they'll tell you that we're not invincible emotionally, because they don't know how to do it. You would think that they would look and say, I will become mentally, emotionally invincible like that person over there because it's my human makeup, because I know all about Patrick Tiahan, Terreal, and all of the smart ass therapists out there who are helping anybody who wants to become a functional adult, the very bare minimum to do so. And so that's where, when you're a person who's an empowered feminine, no one actually gets you to leave your position. I will let you know we are one in communion with that which is Source, Akash, God, because we're using a prefrontal, so we're not deluded by our imagination, and we're not influenced by our implicit, explicit memory or our biases or any of that. We know also we're still a channel, which is why I don't embody the whole divinity thing. I'm Maria, who is a filter, but I will tell you this, that those of us who meet sciences with the heart, Dr. Dennis Siegel, love you, man. When we meet Terrio, when we meet the ones who are bringing us together, it's because of this. We connect here. And that's always. And we leave, wow. I'm so, wow. When I leave from 3 hours, I got to practice staying in my ease while noticing I was really upset and irritated at the gut level for whatever reason. And now that so today I got to contemplate it. And again, as I told you, it was nothing more than Kali comes up, then Shiva's reminded to step in, Jesus, Holy Spirit, Buddha, you name it, all of those, lovely energy, everyone. My prefrontal, Krishna Lila, comes in, exploring the depths of the profound with curiosity, because nothing happened except for I noticed my gut just was really bothered by, quote unquote bothered, by the way. It wasn't even, because there's other things that I will be like, this one was more of, wow, something about you's off. Something about this entire conversation is off, and I can't tell what, but now you heard all about it. So healthy relationships are when you respect each other and you talk to each other from the heart, and when you're using prefrontal, when you can also talk about the gut stuff, of course, because again, we're all imperfect and flawed, so we all will be not in roller coasters. No, you are not a roller coaster buddy. You're a secure attached or earned secure attachment, self-led, prefrontal cortex. So you actually want and desire a heart-to-heart, and that which is true vulnerability. The ones who are still afraid of it, they're not going to be at HP, because they are going to be with Terry Real and Patrick Chan, so they can learn to love themselves first. When we have a person in an entire group, again, that is not open, so the love and flirting, again, for me, it's not confusing, because I will know who I spot, because that's how I work. I'm an empowered feminine, and that's it. And for polyamory, we have nice vessels. Polyfidelity vessel is one of them, but also you don't really pry, is that the right word, in other people's business unless you're curious. And actually, I do love to talk about our polyamory community, so every now and then we have episodes, and that's the part of where it's very important for those of you who are curious to know Polywise, Polysecure, great books, but also therapists. So for any of romantic couples, I will have been sharing with you my food for thought, my 2 cents is you get a good therapist, and if someone says they don't want one, that's a red flag, because it tells me that you don't want to explore this. So now I know you're actually closed off. And when I've told that to some women or men, they're like, but doesn't that sound like it's too serious? No, we want the relationship to work. Don't you have a 3-year-old? No, but really, isn't that too... Everybody can have moments. Moments are not what I'm talking about. And you're actually supporting generational and transgenerational trauma. So I don't tell all people that way because they're going to get offended because they have children, and then they say, you don't know everything, you're not a parent, and da-da-da-da. And I say, no, I'm not a parent, and there's a reason for it. I don't want children. And then when I look out into the world, I see that a bunch of people continue to spiral down in hell in their bodies and thoughts, and, well, they even act like buffoons on screens, and they have children. So realistically, I don't feel comfortable bringing any child into the world as long as people support buffoons, and they support buffoons who put the world in danger, like the actual globe. So while I'm 45, I'm independent, I'm emotionally mature, I can reassure myself, I have a very healthy relationship, I've made my peace with God, I've told him all about there's no Lucifer, there's cowards, he told me I'm physically safe, I'm pretty good. So I think that if I let you all know, fun fact, healthy relationship starts with you being able to then share who you are authentically, genuinely, not with a smart ass attitude. And actually, when you get the genuine intellectuals, you'll know because you have a good time with them. And that's who I'm looking to bring together, because the ones who are not, like I said, I still recalibrate because you have a bunch of people out there. Buddha makes fun of me because I make fun of suffering. And it's because I'm like, come on, you can be elite. You can be emotionally invincible. Come on, avoidant, go back to therapy. You can do it. Ambivalent, get over yourself. Go, go, go. The shoe won't drop. Hey, disorganized, you got it the worst. I really am sorry. I don't mean to make fun of people, but there's a bunch of them that are highlighting their weaknesses. And I'm like, why are you highlighting this like you should be proud? What are you proud of? I wouldn't be proud. I would be proud once you get to the other end, because now you can say, hey, avoidance, so guess what I found out? Secure attachment, unshakable. Awesome, though. You know why it's awesome? Because I actually have moments to myself to be able and evaluate. And so the way that you handle healing, if you're healing because you want to heal, excuse the children, they're getting really rowdy. You don't make it sound like you have done some superhero. Okay, so whenever you want a pat on the back for doing emotions, I know I gotta, hey Cusco, what's up? Are you doing great? That's because they all want to be cheered on. The 3-year-old, good job, good job. Good job, Moana, did you, Maui. So you don't talk to people like that who are grown-ups. I'm just saying, they don't want to be talked like that. Okay, so authenticity is really fun when you meet it. Empowered feminines, empowered masculines, we have a good time. Thanks for stopping by. Again, if you do want to tune into our other episode, it'll be on Spotify for podcasters, or one of the other amazing platforms, Amazon Music, Apple, but only audio, while the video will be on Spotify. And we will be back with more again, so tune on in.